right, we're well into September now, and we're going to do some fall decor. So we're going to make some pumpkins. Basically two different styles, that one and that one. This is just a bigger version of that. So we're going to show you how to build both of them and finish them, and let's get to it. Okay, so here is our 8-foot 2x4. We'll make our first cut. It's going to be much easier if you pick out a nice straight 2x4, so I'm going to recommend that you take your time to get a straight one or a bunch of pieces without too much of a twist to it, because otherwise it's going to be harder to get together. So first cut is going to be at 13. Okay, the rest of the cuts are going to be at 10. So I'm going to measure over to 10. Line up the blade. And then make myself a stop block here. Then take our 13 and we're just going to set it aside. Okay, now I'm going to move this over to 45 degrees. This is where you got to be careful because these like to get in there and then they get hit by the blade and go flying off. Okay, so we need 6 like this, and I'm not measuring because no pumpkin is perfect. The last 2 we're going to cut on all 4. Okay, so now I'm going to take my pencil. So this is going to be the center of the pumpkin. I'm just going to draw over, I don't know, 5/8 of an inch, something like that. I'm going to come over probably about an inch on this side. There's no real wrong way to do this. I've never seen 2 the same on a pumpkin, but I'm going to carve myself a little handle there. Make sure you make that look a whole lot easier than it actually was, eh? Super easy. Yeah, if you have a bandsaw, use a bandsaw. Okay, so here is all of our pieces. So now we need to get them cleaned up and shaped the way we want them. So, I'm going to lay this down like that. And it's going to go like this. So I'm going to be rounding over the outside corners just to give it more character. So I need to make sure that I'm marking the ones not to do, because they're going to be glued against the other ones. And then, so mark the back ones similarly. Now these ones on the sides, because they're not touching anything, they can be rounded over on both sides. Anyway, you'll see as it happens here. Okay, so since I'm going to be taking off a ton of material here, I'm going to wear my desk mask, which I finally found. So if you don't have a belt sander like this, you can just use an orbital sander or do whatever you can. It doesn't matter. There's no pumpkins that are the same, so just do whatever you want. This is just how I'm going to do it. Okay, so you get the idea. So I left everything flat where put the X's on the back where they're going to be glued to the other ones. And then on the front, I'm just kind of carving in some details. Just like I did on that one. Flat on the back. Carved on the front. So now I'm just going to go through and do that with all of them. Clean them all up. I'm not going to clean up the backs because it's going to be all glued together. But I need to clean it up for finish because I want to do all that before I put it together. Alright, so how are we going to fasten this together? So there's a few different ways to do it. Use Type-Bond 3 because we're using it outside. And you can pound it together with finishing nails if you want to, or you can put screws in it, finish screws, deck screws, whatever. I'm going to use 2-inch brad nails. Anybody got a guess what I'm going to use to glue it together with? Surprise! And step aside, Junior. So I'm just going to tilt these 2 up. And I'm going to hug the top here because I don't want to get any glue on my clamps. One might say that this is overkill for a little pumpkin. But not me. I would never say that. Okay, we're not going to go super tight. We don't want to push out here because we're not done yet. Okay, so now the next pieces are going to go like that. Real overkill here. I'm putting a little bit in this. Okay, so now I'm going to throw some extra clamps on there and let it dry. This is why I use the pipe clamp, so I can get these guys in here. Okay, so now I'm going to leave this for a few hours. And after this dries a little teeny bit, I got a little teeny bit of squeeze out there because I was screwing around to get the extra glue on there. So I'm going to scrape that off in a couple hours when it starts to harden a little bit. And then we'll come back and put the rest of it together. All right, here we are the next day. And I didn't need to wait that long, but I got busy working. So I'm going to take the clamps off. Okay, well, we get our PL premium out. And if you're wondering why I'm using PL premium for this, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to explain it in the outro. There's a reason for it, not just because I'm major overkill guy. Make sure it's squeezed a little bit. Okay, now I'm clamping this because I can. I'm not in a particular hurry. I got all kinds of stuff to do right now. If I was in a hurry, I would just finish it. Let the nails hold it in. I'm just doing the major overkill method here because, like I said, I've got too much time on my hands. No, I don't. I have the opposite of that. So now we're going to switch over to the one that's already pre-done so I can put the finish on it. Well, this one's drying. Okay, so I'm just going to burn this a little bit just to give it a little bit more character before I put the finish on it. I'm just going to use this piece of plywood here that I don't care about so I don't burn my top. Okay, here we are with our gunstock stain, which is pretty orange-like. We're going to see how it turns out. Okay, so we have all these little nooks and crannies in here. So I'm just going to use a foam brush to get them dabbed in there. You could take the boring way out of that and just spray paint this, but where's the fun in that? Okay, so at this point, just make sure you have a good look around. Make sure there's not any spots that, so I got a pretty good spot in there where, I don't know if the camera can show it, where you can see a bunch of white, so I'm just going to blob this in there. Now we're going to give it a wipe down. Okay, so now we just make sure everything looks okay, and if it does, then we just let it dry. Okay, now I'm going to dig out this red oak, which is that color right there. The stem's going to be darker. And I think I'm going to want a paintbrush for this one too. Just keep in mind that stain is very thin. So you don't want to see how it wants to start running. You want to make sure that when you're putting the heavier stuff on, you put it on higher so it has a time to run out of steam. And then your brush has got a lot less in it when you get down to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to blob the top here to get rid of most of what's in the brush because the end grain's going to suck it right in.
Get to that.
Oh, there we go. There we go, that's what happens. So I'll just dab it on the top here again, get it a little thinner because that's a lot more than I wanted. Okay, now I'm just having a look here, and I can see a little bit of the unfinished wood there, so I'm just going to dab this. I'd rather have it a little bit blobby like that than to have that very noticeable white wood look there. Okay, and there we have our stem slash handle done. Okay, so for this one, we're going to be using this 1x6, which for some reason here is 5/8 thick, and of course, as a result of being 5/8 thick, they tend to cup a lot. So I'm going to use this not great for anything else board to make it into something. Okay, so this can be any measurement that you want. You can go down here and go up here, whatever. It's whatever you want. I'm just going to use 6. All right, now I'm just going to move it over to 45, cut the corners off. No particular measurement because every pumpkin is different and imperfect. Okay, so we're going to measure our board here. It says 5 1/4 plus a smidge. Doesn't really matter that much. So 2 5/8 is going to put us relatively in the middle. Okay, so 5/16 on that side, 5/16 on that side. Okay, and then halfway down, be at 3. Okay, do the same thing on this one. Okay, if you have a bandsaw, great, use that. I do, but I'm not going to dig it out right now. I'll drill corners. Now when doing this, keep in mind that spruce and pine are very, very soft, so you can be a little bit tight, and when you pound them in, it'll go. Just don't be too loose, so they don't want to wobble. I'm just using a 1/4 inch brad point bit. Alright, let's see how it fits. Like I said, nice and tight. Alright, so that's how we want that. So now we just get around over the corners. I'll show you that. And to take it apart to do that. Okay, you can do this however you want. You can use an orbital sander or not do it at all. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to make it all rounded over here. Okay, so here we are, and I got my piece of scrap plywood on my bench top here just so I don't do any damage to it. And I can either burn it like this or I can take it apart. I think I'll just leave it like this. Okay, here we are. We're going to put some gunstock stain on this one. And I'm going to take it apart to do that because it's just going to be easier. There's no need to stain the inside because this kind of stain has no sealing qualities. So it is merely for appearance only. And since we're not going to see in there, we're not going to stain in there. Alright, now we let it dry. Alright, so here we are. This is the first one that I did the prototype off of camera. This is the second one I did on camera, and you can see I rounded the fronts on that one. This is a 1x8 that I made, and I cut it 11 inches, and it's just the exact same build as these ones. And I just went out and got a piece of a pine branch, and I cut it up and put some PL Premium on there and dabbed it on there and let them dry for a couple hours. Okay, so first thing, why did I use PL Premium? Quite simply because I had it and it's not expensive. I didn't use hardly any of it. It makes these things virtually indestructible, and I didn't have to spend much money on nails and screws. So pretty simple explanation for that one. I'm going to finish them with spar urethane, which is exterior, because Minwax stain is not an exterior product, but once you put this on, it's fine. We will have everything in the description down below for our links for Amazon. And if you would, if you haven't already, please help us replace that 5 with this 6 right here as soon as possible. We're getting very close. And thank you to all that have subscribed in the past. And if you like this, please like. And like I said, subscribe and give us a comment. And we have more content over there. All right, thanks for watching.